Wondering how you can become better at running your business? Entrepreneurship can be stressful. There's too much to do and not enough time. If you're isolated in your daily decisions, have no fear. Success and balance are possible. Welcome to the Small Business Answer Man podcast, where you master the art of running a successful business using practical advice from experts who want to help you succeed. Now, here's your host, Gary Wilbers.
Well, it's early in 2024, and I told you we've got to find guests that's going to really make a difference to your business, to really your bottom line, because some of you are done and last year's over, so you can't go back and change those numbers. But what you can change is the numbers you have today going forward in 2024. So I really talk a lot about the 6P business owner formula. And for a lot of you, you know what I'm going to tell you. Those 6Ps are people, productivity, pricing, promotion, process, and profits. And profits is an area that we're going to talk today because that's all about your financials in the business. And I've got a guest with us that's an expert in this area. So Chris, would you share with our listeners today, what problem will you help them solve?
Yeah, sure. Thanks for having me. I think the most important thing is, accounting used to be looking at the historical information, and now what you need out of your accountant is strategy. You need somebody who's looking at the data, analyzing your business, and really helping you with strategy.
I love that because that becomes key to have success at the end of the year, to have my P of profits, because that's what business owners are in for, it is the profits. So today we've got with us Chris Mannina. And I knew I'd mess it up, and I even told him I would, and here I did it and stuff. But Mannina, he's with us. He's a CPA and a CFO. He works primarily with mid-market businesses in a variety of industries, including professional services, technology, government contracting, and nonprofits. His areas of expertise includes reporting, compliance, strategic planning, FP&A, he's going to have to tell us what that is, monitoring, and internal controls. So Chris, it is great to have you on the podcast. Welcome.
Yeah, thank you so much. I'm really looking forward to it.
Well, I'm curious because I think one of the questions, a lot of my people that's listening to this podcast, they're small business owners or they're entrepreneurs. Some of them they're not in the large organizations. So thinking about that type of client, and you work with mid-size and smaller, medium-sized businesses too, is what do you see CEOs really need to know about their financials? Because I can tell you with coaching those type of individuals, a lot of them just kind of hope and wish at the end of the year they made some money, and that's not the right thing to do, I know.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, you want to have, really the idea is you want to have a framework for how the business works and where your profits are coming from. So if you think about an analogy like a car, you don't necessarily need to know how the engine's put together, but you need to know that if I turn the wheel right, turn the wheel left, which way the car is going to go. And if I punch the gas or punch the brake, what's going to happen. So you really need to have that model of, what's driving the business? Where's your profit coming from? If you're a service-based business, do you have contracts, or where are they profitable contracts? Where are some less profitable? Really what's driving your profit and ultimately your cash flow. So really understanding the levers that you can pull, that drives back from, understanding your cost structure, understanding your pricing, all the moving pieces that hit the P&L at the end of the day.
Yeah, I think that becomes so important because if you don't know your cash flow, and every business is seasonal, we're early in 2024. For some people, this is a tough time of the year. They get done with the holidays, and the first part of the year, that first quarter, there's less cash flow coming in. So when you talk to small and medium-sized businesses about that, what else do you see? Where do you see their struggles coming in, and what can they do to really help themselves in those areas?
Yeah. I mean, I think it's sort of a multi-pronged approach, right? So with technology nowadays, it's democratized a lot of the tools out there that small businesses have access to do all the things that bigger businesses used to be able to do. It means that the historical bookkeeping can be done in a really automated way, smooth, seamless processes that really shift the accountant's focus or the CFO's focus from doing the historical work to doing forward-looking work, right? So instead of looking backwards at your 30, 60, 90-day historical financial statements, we spend a lot more time looking forward and doing our budgeting and forecasting, doing our cash flow modeling, trying to understand what the business is going to do in the future, because the past is the past and it's great. You need to know where your numbers were, but what you really want to know is the decisions I'm making today, how are they going to affect my business and cash flow going forward? So that's really the answer, is trying to shift your focus from a historical look to more of a forecast, forward-looking business model.
Yeah, I think that's so important because you know what's going on because, I know in Franklin Covey always talks about lead and lag measures.
Right.
Well, when you get your numbers at the end of the month or end of the quarter, I mean, you can't change those,
Right.
on that side of it. So they're set. So how important that is. So let's talk a little more, if you don't mind, about this forward-looking
Right.
process that we need to do, because I really, I'll be honest, I think you're unique a little bit, Chris. I'm going to tell you, as accountants go, because most accountants say, get me your numbers, and then they give you back your numbers
Sure.
of what they mean to you and stuff. So I want to dig into this a little bit deeper, if you don't mind.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the historical looking data, it's really important as a framework for how you project forward, and it's important to understand where you've been. But I look at each month as we pass as more data to input into my forward-looking models, right? So I'm just updating my assumptions every month for your next 30, 60, 90 days, your next year, 2, 3, 4 forecast. So each month that goes by, we're just adding more data to our assumptions and our models, and it's helpful to give you as a business owner the data points you need. So you're going to see what your metrics are, what your growth trends are, what your operating margins are. All those things are important. But where are they trending, and where do we think they're going to go in the future? So, I mean, I really think it's sort of a blend of the two, but where you want to see your CFO adding value is really spending most of their time either in the present or in the future. That's really where you're going to get more value out of your business. And you need to, as a CEO, be focused on those points as well.
Yeah, I think that's so important because, they're normally visioning out what do they want to do, but also knowing those cost factors that's there. So part of the reason I wanted to have Chris on today is really to have this conversation early in 2024, because as you're meeting with your accountant, if they're not helping you in getting some of these things put in place, you've got to find the right resources, because a lot of small business owners don't have a CFO, but they have to rely on that accounting source to be able to do it there. And, I guess one of my questions that comes up, I think about is, what's some of those things that can be a high return or on investment for some quick wins in accounting and finance that, maybe I can have my team work on to start to implement.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it always depends on where you're starting, right? So the first thing you want to do is a little bit of a triage or risk assessment where you are today. Then you can sort of figure out where you want to be in the next year, 2, 3, and figure out what the gap is, where you want to go. Often from an accounting and finance standpoint, the high ROI wins are first to get your historical books in shape and processes really, really smooth. And what that means is automation and technology. So if you don't have the right tools in place, you're spending way too much time with data entry, processing transactions, recording getting all the books done right. So get your technology right, get your tech stack right, get everything automated that you can get automated. Then going forward, you've got to have a cash flow forecast. 30, 60, 90 days are very important with a weekly level of granularity, because as you go through and update each week, you're going to see where you hit, where you missed, where your assumptions were right and wrong. And you're going to get so much visibility into your business with that, looking at that level of granularity. And again, this is not the CEO who needs to do this, but this is the CEO who needs to see this at the end of the day. And you're going to really, really understand the drivers of what's moving your business one way or another. Then, more forward looking out, you start to develop scenario models, right? So a CEO might have 3, 4, 5 ideas about major initiatives they want to take for the next 1 to 2 years. And that's where scenarios can help. Scenario modeling can help really, really add value, because you model out the 3 or 4 scenarios and what's the business going to look like if we do X, Y, or Z, or some hybrid of the 3. And you could sort of put the pen to paper and see what that might actually look like to give you a little bit better roadmap of what direction you want to go.
Yeah, I love that because I mean, it's being proactive versus
Mhm.
reactive.
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
taking a proactive stance. Technology, you've got to get up on the times. If you're not using technology that makes it simple to get your numbers, to do your invoicing, to get the
yeah.
information you need, that becomes a killer because what you're doing is you got somebody that's spinning their wheels all on that issue of just getting your books done.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I think that's the benefit of technology today is you don't have to have your accountant spend most of their time recording the transactions and processing the transactions, getting the financials together because there's so many tools that can really streamline those processes and it really should be shifting the energy and focus of your accountant to analysis and strategy.
Yeah. Yeah. It changes the game where
Yeah,
instead of
absolutely.
just like I talked about earlier, instead of
Yeah.
giving numbers and getting, okay,
Yeah,
you owe X back, it becomes a true conversation and your accountant becomes part of your team versus
absolutely.
just
We're not
another.
just giving you data, we're giving you data in context with analysis and trying to add value. Where are you where are your costs overrunning, where are you finding some inefficiencies if you're doing project level accounting, depending on what kind of service or business you're running, look pulling the pieces apart and understanding what are your fixed costs, what are your variable costs, all those kind of things, doing break even analysis, looking at KPIs, all benchmarking, all of it, just these are the things you should be getting out of your accountant instead of just here's your P&L and balance sheet on a
Yeah.
month basis.
Well, and I think that's where when you said about cash flow and the scenario models of creating those, I mean,
Mhm.
that gives a business owner a little more flexibility. I think about a client that I have had before, and they're in manufacturing,
Right.
and part of what they've got to do is when they put in that new manufacturing for this product, they got to be pretty sure that's going to be successful because they're
Yeah.
putting a lot of time, resources, and effort into coming up with this new model that they're now going to sell. Well, if it fails, that's a pretty big cash flow drain on the business.
Absolutely. And that's where you have those scenario models. So you model that all out and you have to do an assessment of, what's this going to look like if this doesn't work? What does it look like if it does work? You weigh the risks. Obviously, when you look forward, it's easy to see what might happen tomorrow, but I'm not necessarily going to know what happens 6 to 12 months out. Your confidence, it's like the weather. I look at the weather app and, I feel relatively confident the next hour or two that it's right. But if I look 6 to 12 days out, maybe not so much. So the further you go out, the more assumptions and confidence levels dip a little bit, but it's still important to do. It's like um, financial planning. It's never going to be exactly accurate. You're not going to get it right, but the value of doing it provides so much visibility.
Yeah, I love that. I think that becomes a real key is because this is one of those areas. I'm just telling you, the majority of business owners, this is not their strength area. This is an
Absolutely.
area they rely on other people. And sometimes, to be quite honest, it's the area, it's always the area that's going to get them in trouble because if
Yeah.
there's not enough profits coming in and you can't make payroll,
Yeah.
you as a business owner has got a challenge.
I mean, that's the thing. Every business owner, I assume, well, maybe that is an assumption, but didn't get into business just for the headaches and uh, just to own a business. You want to make money. That's the purpose. So if you're not making money or you're not making as much money as you could be making, you really want to take a look at your business and see where you can pivot, what you can do. And you really need somebody who is going to help you get there, who's going to help you understand your business. And like I said, with that car, if we're going to turn right or we're going to turn left, what's it going to do? I need to have somebody who's with me, who understands my business and who's going to walk me through that because I don't have the time if I'm the CEO to really dig into that. That's not my purpose. It's not the highest and best use of my time.
Yeah, that becomes the number one key. And that's where it really becomes, they need to be a partner with you in the business because
Absolutely.
that source that you're talking about becomes so huge because, like I said, they kind of make or break you on that part of it. Plus, it's especially when you're talking about a growth organization,
Yeah,
because the
absolutely.
growth organization, it affects everybody, but especially in a growth organization, because what gets challenged right out the gate is the
Yeah.
cash flow and then the receivables and
Yeah.
payables.
I mean, you got to have somebody managing your cash flow really, really tightly when you're either growing or declining. stable businesses are very easy to manage, but a lot of times when you see rapid growth, a lot of the infrastructure doesn't keep up. There's lumpiness in cash flows. You might get a contract where, somebody might pay you 12 months up front. If you're a subscription-based model, it depends on the business model, but when things are not stable and growing, there's a lot of things that happen that you don't necessarily expect. And you got to have somebody on the pulse.
And I think the key there is, and that's one thing why I wanted to bring Chris on today, is really making you try to think differently, because you may have had the same accountant for the last 10 years.
Yeah.
So one of the things I want you to think about is your accountant providing the services that you need? And Chris has shared some of those things that they should be providing for you. But also there's now other methods, especially if you have the technology in place. There's the capability to outsource finance departments. And the problem I'm hearing from business owners, still hearing it in 2024, is they're having a hard time finding critical people in their positions and stuff. And I know this is some of what Chris does, but share with us on more of a broader scope first, and we'll let you share a little bit about what you all do. But when you're looking at that outsourcing of a finance department, what should they consider?
Sure. I think there's a couple of different variables you want to pay attention to. If you are growing, I think outsourcing is very, very valuable up to a point of certain scale. Anywhere under $50 million in revenue, you can usually find a good ROI on outsourcing, because you as a small business you run the risk, if you're trying to insource this role, of not only not being able to assess the person that you're hiring and their skill set, but you're overly reliant on that one person, and turnover at that role could have a dramatic impact on your business. When you outsource, like if you were to work with our firm, for example, you not only get, let's say me, for example, but you get the access to 150 plus professionals who have the various skill sets. And no matter what happens with your business, if I don't know it, if it's something I haven't seen before, I can have a Rolodex in my firm of people I can tag to understand what the question is, get you the answer, and solve your problem. We can also, when you outsource, you can scale up and scale down really effectively. Maybe your finance team really doesn't need to be one full FTE. Maybe it's just somebody you need when you're really small. Just somebody a couple hours a week, maybe 5 hours a week. And you don't really want to pay somebody a full-time salary for that, but you want to get a fractional basis. Sometimes you just might want somebody to consult at a CFO level for a couple hours at the end of the month to sort of look over your financials, help you understand the history, as well as get some analysis on the projections. And so you can do it at a really effective price because you're not paying that full-time salary. I think there's a lot of value added there for a lot of small to medium-sized businesses.
Yeah, I think that becomes the key, because I hear so many of them. I just had a client today who was saying, he needs somebody to be able to input data. But then he needs someone that really helps, because they're on a growth trend. The last 2 years, their business has grown over $1 million a year. And the thing is, he needs someone different, because the thing is, their skill set doesn't match what their business is today.
Yeah. There's sort of the two different, at a very, very basic level, there's two different levels of service you might get. You get some basic bookkeeping, somebody who's going to manage the transactions, who's going to get you the financials at the end of the day, handle all the day-to-day stuff. They're not going to necessarily be adding a ton of value from an analysis and strategy standpoint. What you really want to do is have somebody, even if it's on a very, very fractional basis, somebody looking at it who's got some of that skill set, a CFO advisor that can be your partner, to really provide that upper level service. That can be very fractional. It can be 2, 3, 4 hours a month even. But if you're seeing your business grow beyond the skill set of your bookkeeper, you really want to have that in-house.
Yeah, that becomes crucial, because especially if you're a growing business, or like you said, you're doing you're reducing. You better have the right skill set on your team, because otherwise, the Titanic, it can go down.
Things can go wrong quickly, and once things get out of whack, it takes a lot of work to clean things up. And to be perfectly honest, if you have turnover and you lose that institutional knowledge base, It takes a while for somebody new to step in and really get up to speed on your business and understand all the intricacies and quirks, you know?
Yeah. So the key is what I'm asking you to do is think differently. You're a
Hmm.
CEO, you're the business owner. This year, how do you need to think differently? Are you happy in this area? If you're happy in this area and you're getting the resources and some of those things that we've talked about already, your technology's in place, you're doing a cash flow analysis, and you've got scenario models. I doubt there's many of you do, but if you do, then you're in great shape. You can check mark and say, hey, I've got this covered. But I have a feeling a lot of people are sitting there saying they don't have that, but what do I need? And that's the reason I brought Chris on. Yes, I'm going to let him share where they've come from and everything else because he's given us just great advice. But the thing is, he's also educated us on what you need. And
Right.
that becomes the real key as business owners because we are not the experts in everything.
Right.
You know, as a business owner, you're supposed to know marketing, finance, HR, operations,
Yeah,
sales, go down the line. Guess what? I haven't found a business owner yet that has every quality of every one of them.
absolutely.
It's,
Absolutely not. And you're never going to find somebody with that broad enough skill set because that's not their purpose. They need to be able to rely on somebody who's got that skill set. I mean, you're ultimately as a CEO, you're the CEO and the janitor sometimes, you do everything in between. But you got to find the right people and the right skill set to have that you can rely on. And I think that there are a lot of good options out there for you.
yeah. Well, I appreciate you just sharing your knowledge with us and stuff. And I am going to let you share now because the one thing I did like that you did, and I checked into this, is you have a free rapid finance assessment that you'll allow them to do. And if they complete this short questionnaire, it's a 30-minute call with you to really
Yeah,
assess your financial health. So
right.
I shared a little bit about it, but share what they're actually
Yeah, I mean,
doing.
we'd be happy to talk to anybody. Really, what we're going to provide is a very brief assessment of your systems and controls, technology, the financial reporting that you're getting, just an overall health check of your business from a finance standpoint. And from there, we're going to give you a handful of ideas. Sort of, I think I said this at the beginning, but here's where you are today, an assessment of where we think you want to go in sort of a financial maturity model concept, and really 3 to 5 steps of where you can go to move the needle the most to get you from point A to point B, how you can bridge the gap. And I think that will provide a lot of value to a lot of small businesses out there because you can really identify the key areas that are going to move the needle most from you on the finance side.
Well, I appreciate that because I love assessments because that gives people a clear indication. And then you're willing to even do the 30-minute call with them to
Yeah,
overview it. And then, of course, if it's a fit, yeah, you can do business
sure.
together. If it's not, then, of course, Chris and them, and I'm sure Chris and them are the same way. It's got to be a fit for their business too. It's not
Yeah,
a
yeah.
way street.
I mean, we'd love to help and see if there's any value we can add across the board. I think that just giving somebody this tool, it gives you the pieces that you can go figure out what you want to implement, how you want to implement it, and who you want to use to implement it, or if you want to do it in-house. I think it's a really, really good opportunity.
So that assessment's available to you. We'll have the link on the show notes. Their website is kwcadvisors.com. You can go there, check out their information. I've looked at it. They've got a great website, lots of great information up there. So please check that out. They're on LinkedIn under KWC CPAs. We'll have it all in show note, Facebook. Chris is in there. So all that information is available to you. We'll have that in show notes. So you can get there right there from your phone, or you can get it from our computer, go into your computer and go into smallbusinessanswerman.biz, and all that information is available to you. Chris, before I let you go, I always ask every guest one question, and I ask them the same question, and it may be something we've already talked about, and that's fine. But what would be your best business advice you would give the business owners and entrepreneurs?
Yeah, I mean, I think I touched on this briefly before, but it's really lock in on your cash flow forecasts. A 90-day cash flow forecast at a weekly level of granularity. It's going to give you so much visibility into your business that I can't tell you how much visibility it gives you into your business because you're going to know where you're right and where you're wrong about all the assumptions you have about cash flows. And ultimately, that's what matters. So doing that and iterating each week probably, I would say after 3 to 6 months, you're going to have so much more clarity on your business than you ever thought you would.
Yeah. Great advice, because I tell you, most business owners, they've heard the saying, cash is king,
Absolutely.
but they don't really understand cash flow
Yeah.
to the benefit that they do. And, guess what? Those bills keep coming in every month. That's for sure. So you got to have the cash flow to be able to make those payments. So, Chris, I thank you so much for joining us today. Again, it's kwcadvisors.com. We'll have that in show notes available to you. I can't thank you enough for sharing your expertise with my audience.
All right. Thank you so much. I really appreciate your time today, and look forward to talking again in the future.
Sounds great, Chris. Okay, I tell you, what can we take away from this? I think Chris gave us plenty of advice, but I think the biggest thing is, as business owners, I want you to really think about, are you getting the advice, the support, and what you need to really manage your business in the area of profits, which for me, that's finances of what we've talked about with Chris and your accounting. But it's the profits, because I want you as a business owner at the end of this year to get to that end of that rainbow, which will be here before we all know, even though it's early in 2024. And I want you to get to the end of that rainbow. I want you to there be a bucket full of profits for you, instead of there's none available to you. So if you do that, you're going to really learn from this. The other thing I ask you to do is like and share this podcast, let others know about it. I know you know another business owner that finance is not in his area. I had a couple go off in my head that will be getting a link to this show, because I know that they need to improve in this area themselves. So come back next week. We'll have another great guest for you. Make it a great day. Thanks for joining us.
That's all the time we have for this week. To continue your journey, head over to smallbusinessanswerman.biz to access the tools and resources mentioned in today's show. If you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe and share it with someone who would benefit from listening. That's smallbusinessanswerman.biz. Until next time, remember, when you find the right solutions, your business grows and you get your time back.